Morning everyone and welcome to Nat's Knackers Yard. I'm Nat and this is my Knackers Yard and this is my RatBoy, my Fazer 600. A lot of time last night sorting the carbs or doing the refurb kit on them. They are now, I think, as good as I can make them. To do a video, I'm not sure what order I'm going to upload them in. I'm kind of midway through editing it because there's a lot of footage and it's very, very long because it's very involved. But I get it down to as manageable as I can manage. I'm now going to try and install it, which I know is going to be a bastard. I'm not going to film it because I'm trying to cut down on the amount of swearing on my footage, and I think there's going to be quite a lot because it's going to be a tricky bugger. But let's get on with it. Well, pleasantly surprised. That wasn't as much of a bullseye as I was expecting it. Probably helped by the fact I've chucked a screw in the top of the airbox, just jammed it back as far as I can, but it actually gives you a half decent amount of space to get the carbs in past the airbox. I was all geared up for a fight then. Right, I'm just going to nip the throttle cable. In fact, let me check that because it's something that routinely it's a bit sticky. That is very sticky. Let me give that a sort. There you go, that's better. WD to the rescue. Effectively where I'd cleaned it, I cleaned all the oil off it, so it just needed a decent bit of lube. Right, I'm going to get those tightened up and see if I can sort this airbox. Right, you might see over there my blower. It's a cold morning, these have been out all night, so they're quite stiff, so I just blew some air on a low setting because I don't want to melt them, obviously, on the manifolds. It seemed to help. I'm going to do the same on the back before I start trying to manipulate that in. And it was all going so well. That airbox is not playing. The manifolds themselves are quite shagged, but it's catching. There is a solid something in the way. Now I've unplugged everything I can, and it just hasn't got the reach to reach. It's wedged, and I can't find what against. So infuriating. I'm going to give it another 20 minutes. Failing that, I'm just going to drop it back, try it with no air restriction, and then cut the bastard out and just run it on pods. Cool. I think I've worked out why. Now these manifolds were inside out, and I've flipped them to be the right way out. Now the necks on the inside are longer, a lot longer and soft. So I think that's how it's been run before. And the reason they were flipped is because one of these is fire damaged. I think it's that one quite badly. So what? I'm going to cut it out. And I'm going to run it on pods. Because I think it's going to be a damn sight easier. Damn sight better. And then what? Then I've got that spare space. Yeah, I've got that spare space to put the CDI and any of the gubbins, any of the wiring that I'm going to cock out the back when I've got just that seat, which is going to go to about there. So I've got, obviously that's the battery space, and I've got that, yeah, sorted. Right, that makes sense to me. It means I'm not trying to cram all of that above the battery, which is not a good idea. Now the question is whether or not I cut this out here or whether or not I take the car back out. I think I'm going to try and just wedge it out here in slices and just cut through. And if all goes horribly wrong, I'll just buy a new airbox, but with some decent manifolds in it rather than codged together ones. Right, let's get going. Right, so we're hooked up. Doesn't look like I'm dropping fuel anywhere, but we shall see. Oops, you're a bit drunk. I've tagged on the exhaust for the sake of the neighbours because it is Sunday morning, although it is going to be bloody loud. Right, dry carbs, so I'm just going to let that idle for a minute. Right, it's still not happy with any throttle. Now to me that is either the jets that I've just put in or the float height. It's not getting enough fuel when it revs up. But either way, it involves a bit of carb messing, which involves me getting that airbox out and just doing it off pods, which will give me all that extra play space. Yeah. Chucking in a bit of carb cleaner there. It revs fine with more fuel. It's fuel starvation, which is either those jets or the float heights. Right, I'm just going to let that burn through the rest of that fuel so that I don't have to dispose of it. Right, so back again. It's been a long pause. Life is starting to return to normal, ferrying kids to birthday parties and things like that. So it's now late afternoon, early evening I suppose, after an early morning start. I've managed to get the airbox out. I have had to cut it to get it out. I did have some pods kicking around, so I've chucked them on just for shits and giggles more than anything else. I've returned the jets back to what they were. I haven't touched the floats yet, so rather than just change everything wholesale, and I'll see how / if this goes at all. Batteries on boost, power on, neutral, fuel on. The carbs are dry, so it's not going to go first go. Let's see what happens. Oh, I am just going to tag an exhaust on, actually. 2 seconds. Value my neighbours. There you go. There's an exhaust literally jammed on, but it's not worth a lot, but it's better than nothing, I think. All right. Because it was so close. Not really. Try and do some pipe magic and I'll be right back. My apologies, I forgot to start you then. So that's it running off the pump rather than straight into the carb. I've just run out of fuel. It goes through it quick. Alright. It's certainly running better. And I've lost that damp spot as well, so it was revving right through. Seems quite thirsty, this bike. Excuse the gratuitous shot in my arse. I hate this dummy tank. Never get the lid on. Right. Try that again with enough fuel. Power on. Yep. Right, let's try that again. That is not far off. That's pretty close. Pretty close. So, once I've got those brake pads in, which I've ordered, I've also ordered a new disc. It's really difficult to show, but it is ridged. Not massively, but essentially any pads that I put on that is just going to conform to that ridging straight away. But yeah, so once that's on, I've got the exhaust arriving middle of the week. I want to chuck, and the key set and everything else. I want to chuck the tank on and see if it moves. But yeah, really not that far off. Right, nice short one today. So that's the carbs that you saw that I will have uploaded by now. Oh, I've got a drip there. I've got a leak. I've got a leaking carb. Which one's that? I hope that's carb 1. Let me have a look. Just as I was doing my summary, that's not good. Yes, those floats. So, aside from a leak out of 2, so I know what I need to do with that. I need to drop it. I'll drop the lot. I'll drop the middle 2 because the instruction says balance the ones on the outside. It doesn't mention the ones on the inside. But that's fine. So I can drop that quite happily and give it a ride. So, despite the fact I have a leak, I'm actually in a good mood. Right. Getting there. It's starting to fight back a little bit now. It's starting to get a little bit finicky. But I still think it's a bit of a hero. Right, so that'll do me for now. Yeah, I think next upload will be hopefully it moving, because it should have the exhaust. I can strap up the rear brake and just literally crawl it to make sure it selects gears and the likes. But yeah, that's cool. Right, let me start putting things away and I will be right back. And there we go, short one today after the last one being a particularly long one. What have we done? Well, we've mounted the carbs. I've now worked out why carbs 2 and 3 were lower than 1 and 4, because they need to be, the floats, which is strange, but that's what the manual says anyway, because it only says about balancing 1 and 2, 1 and 4. I've got rid of that air box, kind of had my hand force on that, but it does give me all of this lovely space to store stuff in, which is fine. Random passers-by speaking very loudly. Yeah, I've had my hand forced, but frankly, all that lovely space to do something with and stuff with, so I've got all of the CDI and everything else that needs to be stashed from under here is just going to go in there great. The pods I already had as leftovers from previous projects. In fact, those ones were the ones that came on the XS650, and the other 2 were part of the replacements when I bought a job lot. Yeah, I'm happier. I'll be ecstatic if they just run straight off, but there's a little bit of guesswork with the kit that I bought for it more than anything else, and the factory jetting seems to be better and coping okay with the pods and a crappy exhaust, but we will see. The dip in the revs seems to be fuel pump related, and when you plug in the pump that cures it, so I'm happy with that. Generally it's all going well. Like I say, starting to fight back a little bit, but I expect nothing different. I want to take this opportunity to say thank you for watching the channel, but thank you to for the interaction that I'm getting from watching that channel. So on a previous video I mentioned that I quite like the idea of getting a rear hugger on here. Steve jumped onto Messenger and said, oh, I found one that with this fit, and it's miles away. It's miles away. It's Bristol way and I'm Watford way, but actually I do have relatives around that neck of the woods, and they're picking it up for me, which is nice. So, you know, and the general flow of visitors and all of that, it should be here in the next couple of weeks, which is really handy. I'm in no rush for it. That's Brill, and also Mike, who offered me some axle stands, not axle stands, what am I on about, paddock stands, that's the word I'm looking for, which is just really kind of him. But yeah, it's a great little community kicking around this. Please like, subscribe, share, increase the community even wider. Cheers all, I will catch you later. Ta-da.